July 5th, 2021. Decided to do another video regarding sports entertainment, in particular football, but I'll probably touch on a little baseball as a bonus. But what prompted me to really get serious about doing another video is I heard a report on a local news affiliate regarding Joe Delaney, Kansas City Chiefs running back from the early 80s. He died as he was trying to save a couple of children from a pond down in Louisiana. And people have probably heard this. But what I noticed, the news report, well, what brought up the whole issue of talking about Joe Delaney, I think this is the 38th anniversary of this tragedy, according to the narrative, like I like to say. This tragedy 38 years ago, and they were going to make a memorial street near Arrowhead Stadium and name it after Joe Delaney. Now, the report went into some detail about the issue with Delaney saving 2 children, but they did not say 2 children. Now, I want to emphasize, back in 1983, June 29th, 1983, 20-year-old football fan, diehard Chiefs fan, a huge fan of Joe Delaney, and I heard the news that he drowned while trying to save 2 children. Okay, I was all over this story that whole summer. That was the hot topic of the summer. We lose Joe Delaney, in a tragic way. Reading news articles, listening to the news reports, I couldn't get enough of that story because I was literally grieving this tragedy. And what I know, as sure as I am sitting in this chair talking in this microphone, that Joe Delaney went into the pond to save 2 children, 2 boys. The news report says there were 3 children, and he saved one of them. Joe Delaney did not know how to swim. This was the story, the narrative that was broadcast throughout that whole summer about Mr. Delaney. Did not know how to swim. Went in to save these children who were somehow out in this water, in this pond. He went in and did not come back. No one came out of that pond alive. The rescuers go in and retrieve Joe Delaney and 2 small boys. Now, the news report is saying that he actually saved one of them, a 3rd child. Now, this could be considered some serious Mandela Effect, which would categorize as a Mandela Effect. But it just really ticked me off when I heard this. So here I'm thinking, okay, here we go with some more manipulation, in your face manipulation. These gaslighters, when they pull their little stunt. So I go online and start looking up the old research on Joe Delaney's tragedy, and sure enough, all the research has been changed to 3 individuals, 3 children. One of them was saved. Okay, so now we got a rewriting of history right before my eyes. I'm witnessing a true-to-life Mandela Effect, and I know full well there were 2 boys, 2, not 3. So in my research, I finally stumbled on something that gave me an indication that there's evidence of Mandela Effect. Like, there's the sloppiness of the change was revealed in this particular article that I will show right here, and I will read through it. And here it is. I don't remember the name of this news outlet on this article, but it doesn't matter. This is very important. That what I'm about to read here, again, it gives evidence that there has been some change. Delaney, a 24-year-old budding star running back with the Chiefs, had scrambled into the water to try to save 2 boys, and some believe rescued a 3rd. To this day, Dearman is I think he was one of the police officers down there in Louisiana. Either he was a police officer or he was a rescuer. I think he was a a sheriff or something to that effect. But anyway, it doesn't matter. To this day, Dearman isn't sure what to make of conflicting versions of how the third boy, LaMarcus Holland, I hope I'm pronouncing that, LaMarcus Holland, managed to survive. But he knows this: Joe Delaney lost his life trying to save drowning children he didn't know. Okay, go back up to the first paragraph. He had scrambled into the water to try to save the two boys. To try to save the two boys. And some believe rescued a third. Again, the narrative in 1983. The summer of 1983, Joe Delaney did not know how to swim. The two boys, as this paragraph is telling us, save the two boys. Why does it say the two boys? And some believe rescued a third. Some believe rescued a third. I mean, wouldn't we know if a third child was rescued in such a horrific situation? A man dies. No more tragic than that. Two children are dead. And a famous football player tries to save him. He dies. We wouldn't know for sure if he saved a third child or not. To this day, Dearman isn't sure what to make of conflicting versions of how the third boy, LaMarcus Holland, managed to survive. There we have it. I'm just going to leave that open. I'm not going to come to a conclusion and say, you know, it just puts a doubt on the whole event. I mean, why are we getting facts confused? You know, it just seems like it's the method of Babylon to create purposeful conflict. The system absolutely cannot function in truth. They cannot function in a way where things are running smoothly. There always has to be a insertion, for lack of a better term, of drama and chaos. Okay, and in this case, after, you know, reading this article here, reading this story that I got online, that's suggesting that the third child is in question. That it's like it's a dishonor to the whole event that happened. Of all those who grieved and suffered. Oh, now we're debating on whether it was three children or two children, and we have an actual name of the third, but we don't know if, we're still not sure if he saved him or not. This is nonsense, and it's unfortunate that if this event that happened in 1983, according to the narrative, actually occurred, why are we having this conflict? But, you know, as a side note, as I wrap this section up, the section of the video up, notice something about Joe Delaney as I look back on him. He has a familiar look about his face. Number one, he looks much older than a 24-year-old. It's just my opinion. Joe Delaney looks at least 15 years older than what they're claiming to be. And he looks a lot like an individual named the Hammer. What's it? Fred Williamson. To me, he looks like as if he could be related to Fred Williamson, either brother or son. It's Fred Williamson in 1983 would have been, according to Wikipedia, Fred Williamson was born 1938. So Fred Williamson would be, you know, 44, 45 years old. But not that this matters, but it's just kind of interesting to see a similarity. And again, a Mandela Effect and a confirmation of conflicting stories confirmed by their own sources. This is indeed the method of Babylon. To never have anything straightforward. There always has to be conflict. There always has to be chaos. And they like to do their number 33, of course, bringing order out of chaos. before I get to the Chiefs, the Raiders versus Chiefs, January 2nd, 2000, Derrick Thomas's last game. Before I get into the analyzation of that, I want to go over the real reason why. I want to give a better explanation as far as why am I bothering with all this. I want to establish a pattern, and it just so happens to be this particular game is a very great example of a pattern of numbers. 933 is a very relevant number. It happens to be a number that reoccurs in my life with relevant situations. I have pointed that out in other videos, but in this case it will be pointed out in the presentation of the Raiders versus Chiefs, Derrick Thomas's last game. And I want to go step back in the past a little bit. 1933, that was a huge year for the United States citizens in general. March 9th, 1933, the United States citizens were put in a status of collateral based on the fact that the United States declared bankruptcy. International bankers basically removed the gold from the United States Treasury. So that this is common knowledge. So this is that was a very relevant year, which is why I believe the 933 is a very important number to every citizen in USA Inc. Because we are actually not citizens according to First Amendment rights in general, constitutional rights in general. It's all been suspended. The United States government is functions in de facto status. We will not go over through that whole scenario because that's been covered in another video. But I am tying the relevance of the number 933, into the presentation of this game that I will get into. Also, I want to mention Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins got rid of the name Redskins in 2019. 2019 was the last year the Washington Redskins used the name Redskins. And this is no coincidence that the Redskins were founded. The name was established in 1933. So I think that the name Redskins being eliminated in 2019 has nothing to do with racial justice, racial injustice, the Black Lives Matter movement. People would think that has something to do with, the Native Americans wanting to what they considered racial slur to get rid of the name Redskins. I believe it goes far deeper than that. It's a huge symbolic move to remove the name Redskins. It is symbolic because COVID-19 in 2019 basically removed the citizens from what we believe to be a representative republic governed by constitutional authority. We were removed, as it were, from that belief and put into reality. And the reality is we are collateral. We're basically slaves, and we are under the authority of the world banks. Okay, so Washington Redskins. The relevance of it being Washington D.C.'s team is because Washington D.C. is not a part of the United States. People should know that. District of Columbia, Washington D.C. is its own entity, and it being separate from the United States, now we have symbolism of the Washington football team is unique amongst all NFL teams because they are the only team now that does not have a name. They are unique. They are a football team. They are not a specified mascot is the word I'm looking for. So their uniqueness has been established by removing the name. The United States citizens, we are unique in the sense that we are not what we think we are. We are not protected by constitutional rights, as I just covered. We are hypothecated, meaning we are held in a trust to be delivered as product to the debt holders when the debt holders call upon us, when we are finally liquidated. So that is the symbolism, in my opinion, the symbolism of Redskins, the name being removed, the timing of it, 2019, COVID-19. I'm just going over this to point out the relevance of 33. It's been 86 years. The Redskins kept the name for 86 years. The number 86 is also symbolic for something to be removed. Okay. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to get back to Derrick Thomas. As we all know, whoever who follows football knows anything about Derrick Thomas's history, had a very impressive football career. He played 11 seasons with the Chiefs, his whole career, 11 years with the Chiefs. He appeared in 9 Pro Bowls. 9 Pro Bowls. He had 3 first team honors dealing with the Pro Bowl. 3 first team honors, 9 Pro Bowls. So there's your 9-3 again. And I'm not just bringing up the 9s and 3s as to suggest, oh, there's a conspiracy. They were out to get Derrick. It was all set up because of the look of the 9s and 3s. What I'm establishing here is the pattern. I will point out a very notable, undeniable pattern that will point out in this game that I will analyze. But I just want to go over a little bit of Derrick's stats, and also want to visit the event he had back in 1998, November 16th, 1998, known as the Monday Night Meltdown on Monday Night Football, with Derrick Thomas and Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, the tight end for the Denver Broncos at the time, got into their little personal issue, and it's common knowledge that it was over a phone number that Shannon Sharpe was reciting in the earshot of Derrick Thomas. And apparently the phone number that he was reciting was somebody that Derrick Thomas was very close to. So Derrick pretty much took a lot of cheap shots at Shannon, got himself in trouble. Now, that game, I witnessed that meltdown. And even at the time, this was well before I was a truth seeker. At the time all that was going on, that drive where Derrick was losing control, and it just seemed odd that was allowed to continue. And it was said after the game, Marty Schottenheimer even said, oh, I should have took Derrick out, blah, blah, blah. But it had the feel of something that was staged. Regardless of whether or not it was staged, in my opinion, that event that Derrick basically took those cheap shots at Shannon Sharpe, I think he crossed the line. He kind of humiliated Shannon, although Shannon was bragging about how he set off Derrick later on, after in his post-game interviews. But there was some humiliation going on there. He just kind of totally disrespected the man, being Derrick disrespected Shannon Sharpe, and I think that put Derrick, I think that eliminated his any possibility of Derrick doing any kind of post-football analyzation in the way Shannon wound up doing. He has a very successful career, ESPN, doing whatever the name of the show he does. He's a big shot, and Derrick basically, in doing what he did on that field, I think he was suspended 1 game, but the symbolism right there, I believe, suggested that Derrick was done after football. He was not going to have a career, and I believe that event, that Monday Night Meltdown, was more than just a couple of individuals acting out their personal issues with each other on national television. I think it was, I honestly believe it was staged. And the date of November 16th, 1998 to the day of his unfortunate SUV accident in Kansas City, just east of KCI Airport, January 23rd of 2000. It's 433 days. So there's a relevant appearance of the number 33 connecting those 2 days. That the automobile accident did not kill Derrick, but it definitely finished him. According to the narrative, Derrick basically paralyzed from the neck down. So he's done as an athlete. Of course, he died maybe, I think, 15 days after that. But the timing of that, the Monday night meltdown to his unfortunate accident, 433 days. So I went over all that to set up my presentation of this game, Oakland Raiders versus Kansas City Chiefs, January 2nd, 2000. Chiefs, if the Chiefs win this game, they're in the playoffs. Oakland's basically playing for pride. Derrick Thomas had an undefeated record against the Oakland Raiders throughout his whole career. And that is to say, in Arrowhead Stadium, that Raiders did not beat Kansas City in Arrowhead from the beginning of Derrick's career in 1989 until this date I'm under analyzation, January 2nd, 2000. That was the first time they beat the Chiefs with Derrick on the field. Ironically or not, his last game of his life. And very relevant game. The number 33. Also, I will say the number 42 will play a huge role in this game. Number 42 is people who are aware of the symbolism, numerology. The number 42 is Freemason, and it will tie in huge in this game. Again, Raiders versus Chiefs, January 2nd, 2000. Coming right up.
actually, as it carries into early second quarter, it stalls and they wind up punting to the Chiefs. The Chiefs get the ball on their own 23-yard line. However, they are unable to move the ball. A quick 3 and out from their 23-yard line. With 13:30 left on the clock after that failed 3rd and 10 attempt. 13:30 left on the clock on the 23-yard line. The relevance of that, the 23-yard line, in my opinion, represents January 23rd. 13:30 left on the clock with that 3 and out shows the time that Derrick Thomas had his accident was 13:30 military time for 1:30 p.m. that occurred on January 23rd. So the relevance of that drive, the Chiefs did a quick 3 and out, stuck on the 23-yard line, stuck on 17 points. Okay, all relevant numbers. It showed the crowd, anyone who's paying attention to games that are rigged, that this team was not going to finish the Raiders. Going a 3 and out at that point definitely hands the so-called momentum to the team trailing, which is, of course, this is the Raiders. Gave them all the confidence they needed. Again, Chiefs not being able to move off the 23-yard line, leaving 13:30 left on the clock as they come out from that 3rd and long. Symbolic. 13:30, 23, 13:30 military time on January 23rd. A tribute to Derrick Thomas. This whole game was basically a tribute to Derrick Thomas. Now this play, I believe that during this, this drive that I'm showing here, this is the Raiders' first offensive score. Started on their 46-yard line, making it a 54-yard drive, a nine play 54-yard drive. So there's the nines matchup. 54, 5 plus 4 is 9 in a 9-play drive. And for their first offensive score, that's what's relevant about this drive. This is the Raiders' first offensive score. Now something very strange happens to Rich Gannon. I believe it's on this play coming up. Rich Gannon attempts, I think he attempts a pass here. Now it's the next play. It's a pretty decent gain there. But the next play coming up, Rich Gannon will attempt to pass on a, it's like a 2nd and short coming up. Rich Gannon will attempt to pass, but he will stumble and fall backwards and fall on the 42-yard line. On the Chiefs' 42-yard line. Falling on the 42-yard line, creating a 3rd and 11 after that mishap. It's coming right up. You'll see it. Coming right up. Takes a snap, falls on the 42-yard line. And there's going to, it's going to create a 3rd. Now it creates a 3rd and 11. That scenario right there will be reversed. Later on in the game, you will see a 3rd and 11 scenario. And the 3rd and 11 scenario turned out to be like the demise of Derrick Thomas in this, symbolically, I should say. I'll get to that, but that stumble there, if you were to rewind this and watch that stumble closely, I think that was done purposely. I don't think that guy actually stepped on Gannon's foot, but nonetheless, we got a 3rd and 11. And the ball's on the 42-yard line. The Raiders will pick up the first down, of course. It will be on against the Chiefs 29. Now that's a 13-yard gain. That 13, in my opinion, is symbolic for Derrick Thomas, number 58. Derrick Thomas started a foundation called the 3rd and Long Foundation. As far as it was a deal for kids reading, helping kids learn how to read in schools, things like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it was about. But Derrick Thomas earned that title of the 3rd and Long Foundation because of his ability, of course, to rush quarterbacks and sack them on 3rd and long. That's what he was known for. But the symbolism, as this esoteric game plays out, it will be the 3rd and long scenarios that will show Derrick Thomas waning and no longer being able to, cash in on the 3rd and long. It will be the third and long symbolically ushering him out like that particular 3rd and long accomplished by the Raiders with Rich Gannon being the ex-quarterback for the Chiefs. It was symbolic for an ex-Chief to beat the Chiefs after 11 straight seasons of losing in Arrowhead. I think that was the relevance of showing the early commercial break fade out. It would be Rich Gannon defeating his old team after the Raiders losing 11 straight times at Arrowhead. It was a big deal back in the era of Derrick Thomas. Now this particular drive, they're driving downfield. Again, the relevance of this drive will be, this is the Raiders' first offensive score, 9-play drive, and it's the next play after this. They will go in on a play action pass. But people may be, kind of rolling their eyes in their head like, come on, are games really rigged to this amount of detail to show, the esoteric meaning through numbers? And I say yes. I would say every game is, but we're not going to pick up on it because, you have to really be in the know to spot the esoteric symbolism. But this particular game, because of Derrick Thomas, I was more focused on it, and I was able to pick up quickly on the symbolism once I started studying this game. Now here's the touchdown. It will give them, the Raiders, their first offensive score with 8:33 left on the clock. Very relevant. They're showing 8:33. They wind up bumping another second on it when they go to the commercial break, but at that point they show 8:33 for a 9-3-3, meaning because it was a 9-play drive with 8:33 left. So there's a 9:33. That's the relevance of this drive. Now we'll continue on. Kickoff, the Chiefs get the ball, poor field position on their 4, and they stall, of course. They stall, don't get past the 25-yard line. The punter comes in and punts and almost has a block punt. He gets the ball off. Manages to get the ball away, snap. He couldn't handle it, and he just barely gets the punt off to the Raiders 48. Now you got a scenario where the Raiders are in good field position. They're on their 48. However, the Chiefs defense holds and basically forces the Raiders into a 3-and-out scenario. But this is probably the most critical part of this entire game as far as symbolism, as far as spotting what I believe to be rigging of this game. On the 3rd down stop, the Chiefs, and they stop the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders move the ball into Chiefs territory. Maybe they do, but it's they're on the 3rd and long. The Raiders are coming to punt. Now, what I want to show, I'm going to show this play after the 3rd down. You will see Derrick Thomas trotting off the field, going to the sideline, not like he normally would do. They don't complete the 3rd down try. Derrick Thomas trots off the field. You'll see him. Now I'm pointing that out because Derrick Thomas, from my memory, remembering Derrick Thomas as a linebacker, especially in his later years, he began to lose a step or two. 11th year, not as quick as he was. He was more finesse, in my opinion, versus just that flat-out speed. And being on natural turf, he lost a step or two. But later in his years, he did not do special teams. Now I will show him trotting off the field, coming right up. Didn't see it right there, but I'm going to bring in some clips of him trotting off the field after this failed 3rd down attempt. Derrick Thomas leaves the field. He did not play special teams. But however, on this particular drive, Derrick Thomas is put back in the game to play special teams, to do this very thing coming up. He comes in and the guy gets the punt off, but Derrick Thomas creates a penalty. He creates a penalty, and there it is. Roughing the kicker. It was of the 5-yard variety because it wasn't deliberate. There he is. What's Derrick doing out there? And guess what? The relevance of this, but the kicker's injured. They both go down on the 42-yard line. There it is. 42-yard line. We got a penalty that keeps that drive alive. It enables the Raiders to continue this drive and go on downfield to score their second offensive touchdown, putting them up 21-17. You know, for all practical purposes, this game ends at that point. Because there's a seesaw battle in the second half. They make this look really competitive. Some very interesting play. I will cover it. But for all practical purposes, the Raiders go up 21-17. This game is over. Derrick Thomas allowed that drive to continue. Ball on the 42. He normally would not play special teams. I'm going to show him trotting off the field. That way it will confirm what I am saying to be true. And I do believe this was the defining moment for the overall outcome of the game. This drive being kept alive allowed for 7 points for the Raiders. And of course, it being scripted, they had no choice. This was being scripted. But it gave the Raiders 21-17 lead. But again, Derrick Thomas had really no role in punt returns. He has 0 punt blocks, or block punts, I should say. So the decision to send him in could be for no other reason than to do what he did, to go in, create a penalty, because the guy who was blocking him on that special teams deal did not do a very good job of blocking. So there you go. All that he went in to try to create something. For what reason? To give the ball back to the Raiders, and it had to be Derrick to create the scenario because he is the guest of honor basically in this farewell tribute. I'm going to play a clip of what I believe to be predictive programming soundbite by one of the commentators regarding Derrick Thomas's penalty, coming right up.
The Oakland drive alive, running into the kicker 5 yards. Roughing the kicker the 15-yard penalty. Get him off that. Derrick Thomas, he could not stop his momentum. Trying to make a play. Even at the end of the play, he grabs the punter, Leo Erickson. He leaves on the ground, grabs his feet. That's pretty good acting line. He gets up the shots off the field, but Derrick Thomas, it's just a Christian trying to make a play, trying to make something happen. And sometimes you're looking to the rest. This is a big game. You're pointing out all the stops. That's why he's in there.
Okay, you heard it. Derrick Thomas being too aggressive, trying to make something happen. It's a big game, pulling out all the stops. Okay, you may say, well, look, he's talking about the man in that particular play on that roughing the kicker. Well, again, Derrick Thomas was not known for blocking punts. He was in there to create the scenario on the 42-yard line for roughing the kicker penalty. I believe that statement by that commentator, sometimes you could be Derrick too aggressive, trying to make something happen. This was the language being used during this whole tragic event regarding Derrick's accident. He was running behind that day, And it was basically that style of language. You know, going too fast, being too aggressive, trying to be somewhere way too late. You know, that is the imagery, that is the symbolism, that's the esoteric meaning of that that penalty occurring on the 42-yard line regarding Derrick Thomas being somewhere, being in a position where he should not have been, to create a penalty unnecessarily, which is exactly what happened to him on the 23rd of January, 21 days from this very day, from this game here. Again, the significance of the Raiders coming back 21 straight points to get in the end zone, to go up 21-17. The 21 points, in my opinion, represents the 21 days from January 2nd. And it is definitely now time to kind of chime in on why am I harping on number 17. Well, the 17 points in this esoteric language represents the esoteric meaning of the number 17. Call it superstition, but the superstition counts in the esoteric meanings. Okay, it counts for the secret society language. And here's the significance in this definition. Some Italians are superstitious, so they're just an Italian thing about Friday the 17th, because rearranging the Roman numerals 17 can create the word, okay, and translated from Latin to mean my life is over. And then it goes on to say the number 39 gets a bad rap also. So number 39 also has basically the same meaning as the number 17. Definitely we understand why the 39 has it, because March 9th, 1933, the United States, U.S.A. Inc. declare their citizens as stock, as collateral for the national debt. Okay, we've already been through that. So there's why 39 gets a bad rap, as they say here. The 17, the Latin rearranged, the number 17 can be arranged to say my life is over. So the Kansas City scoring their 17 points as it relates to this esoteric game. 17 quick points gave the impression that the game was over for the Raiders, but in reality, it was actually over for the Chiefs and for Derrick Thomas's career, because they did not do anything after the 17 point until the Raiders scored 21 points. There's your 21, add that to 2 on January 2nd. We go to January 23rd, the day of the accident. That's why in a couple of drives prior to this one, I was kind of harping on the Chiefs not being able to move off of the 23-yard line, stuck on 17 points. The 23-yard line representing January 23rd. Now I'm revealing the 17 means my life is over, or you can say my career is over. 21 days from now, from the 2nd, there's your 21 points. Hope I'm making that clear. Again, I am not a numerologist, but what I do know is I take the advice from the Word of God. You want to go to the book of Psalms, Psalms 90, verse 12. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Psalms 90, verse 12. You can break that 90 9012-1093. So, okay, it's wise to count. People are rolling their eyes up, maybe saying, "Oh, come on, you're taking this too far." It's wise to count. Okay. I know the number 17 was relevant in my life. The 1990 was a relevant year. That's the year my father passed. Father passed away in 1990, and 17 years later, my mom passed. So 17 years, there you go. And their death dates, I won't say in this particular video, were very relevant death dates as far as, you know, 6s and 9s, you know, things like that. But not to divert, but you know, my birth number, according to numerology, I will post, you know, the app that I looked it up on. You know, I'm 369, my numbers, and you know, I'm definitely called to be a watchman according to Ezekiel 33:6. Definitely called for that, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the so-called birth numbers are showing this reality. This is reality, and again, you know, I hope I make myself clear on this the breakdown of Kansas City scoring 17 points. Derrick Thomas. Now, I have not fully revealed why I keep harping on the number 42. You know, that Derrick committed that penalty on the 42-yard line. He allowed the drive to continue from the 42-yard line. There is a very tragic twist to the term. The drive continued from the 42 for the Oakland Raiders to go up 20 and to score the 21st straight point. Again, 21 days from January 2nd to January 23rd, the date Derrick had his tragic accident. Okay, I'm going to continue on and onto the second half. It's not a whole lot left to cover. Again, a seesaw battle. They made the game look pretty realistic. That there is another very huge event that occurs in the second half, and as the Raiders, you know, go up in overtime and wind up winning the game. I will close it out. The ensuing kickoff from the Raiders after that, the score, when they scored their third straight touchdown, 21 unanswered points. The Chiefs get the ball on their own 14-yard line. 3 minutes left. The Chiefs drive 86 yards in 12 plays in about 2 minutes and 6 seconds to take the lead back 24-21. Now, it's pretty unusual for a team that had basically been dormant as far as offense was concerned. But again, you know, with 3 minutes left in the half, they drive 86. There's your number, 86 yards, and apparently get the momentum back. Okay, they do it and they leave 54 seconds left on the clock. Now the Raiders get the ball back, not without help of the Chiefs. Kickoff man kicks the ball out of bounds, with the second time it happens all day. And I did mention earlier in the clip, on this first kickoff out of bounds, that was the first of the shenanigans that would pretty much do the Chiefs in. So this is the second time kicking the ball out of bounds to give the Raiders field position on their own 40. Now, with 54 seconds left, the Raiders start their drive on their 40, and they march downfield against a stout defense. 54 seconds left in the half, they drive for 60 yards, and from the Chiefs' 23-yard line, they score a touchdown on a screen pass and take the lead back. So again, I mentioned earlier, the Chiefs, the Raiders, I should say, never gave up the momentum of the game. Once they went up, they actually, when they got the 14th point, the momentum stayed with the Raiders. Although the Chiefs did score to go up 24-21. Leaving 54 seconds left on the clock. How realistic is it for these guys to get another kickoff out of bounds and then drive 60 yards and get a 23-yard screen pass touchdown and do it all in 42 seconds before halftime? Okay, and I'm saying all that they're the numbers to support my theory as far as this being an esoteric game dealing with Derrick Thomas. And I should point out to the fans that it's a very unrealistic scenario as this first half closed with the Raiders being up 28-24. Very unrealistic scenario to have 2 touchdowns being scored within 3 minutes. One team drives 86 yards, the other team drives 60 yards. I mean, not realistic at all. So what I'm saying is this game is choreographed, but I do believe that it's somewhat choreographed on another level. Okay, this is what fans really need to consider as they're watching their favorite team. In anything you watch, any sports entertainment, especially sports entertainment, because we know, movies, Hollywood, we know that's scripted, but we think we're watching realistic, real life events on a field of play. And what I am suggesting here is that you are not. And in watching it and giving your emotions over to it, you become a part of the deception. It will cause you to perceive reality in the way they will have you see it, and you will miss truth, the truth that could be a detriment to a person's life, basically. So with that being said, I'm going to try to wrap this up and cover the second half. It's not going to be as much, but it's definitely interesting, the points that I will expose coming up. Starts off with a couple of offensive possession exchanges. Kind of boring at the beginning. The Chiefs get the ball back from the Raiders. I think this is the Raiders after their first possession. This is the Chiefs' second possession, and they fumble. It's the second possession of the third quarter. They fumble, and despite of the fumble, the Raiders don't do much. I think there's a quick 3 and out, and they wind up punting to the Chiefs and get the ball, manage to down the ball on the 2-yard line. And this is where it all gets interesting again. This drive started from their 2-yard line. And again, we had Kenny Shedd there doing another big play, and the time showing left on the clock is 9:27, which I think is relevant. 9:27 with the combinations of 9, 3s, and 9 there. So the Chiefs start their drive on the 2-yard line, and this winds up being a 13-play drive. Okay, 13-play drive, 98 yards. Now, what I'm pointing out here is this is a 3rd and long. Okay, this is 3rd and long, 3rd and 10, as you can see in the corner. What I'm pointing out here is this lineman for the Raiders is going to clear out. He's going to clear out of the way and allow for a draw play to go right where he should be. Where I'm pointing that stick, that guy's going to get out of the way. Just like I'm motioning with the stick, with that pointer, in the Chiefs line, running back number 30. I think that's Donnell Bennett. I think it doesn't matter what it is. Number 30 is going to do a run up the middle, draw play. It's going to go for 27 yards. See how the guy got out of the way? Now, this is absolute proof that this is a rigged game. Again, there's the guy getting out of the way. We'll show it from this angle. You'll see it. There he is, getting out of the way. Cleared out. Cleared a path to keep the Chiefs' drive alive. And again, that winds up being a 13-play drive for a score. And I'm going to continue. It's at 1st and 10 on their 32. This is a big-time receiver. Tim Brown. James Hasty is a big-time cornerback. Now, first thing James should have did was, once he saw Gannon going back to pass, James Hasty should have immediately charged that line and just hit Tim Brown to check him. If James Hasty goes into Tim Brown at the time that ball was snapped, this pass will not be completed. Hasty should be moving up and jamming him hard, forearm to the chest, right there. And that, if he does that, that will force Gannon to change his receiver's choice. Hasty, right now, as a professional cornerback, knows his job, once he sees Gannon going back for a pass, is to disrupt Tim Brown's pattern. But he does it. He does a hesitation purposefully. That hesitation was purposeful, and it gives the receiver the leeway to make the reception. That's a very common method to allow receivers to get by with a fake pass completion. The second play of the drive, the Raiders do a run right up the middle, and with the last 10 yards, you see a lot of missed tackles, very half efforts, you know. But what I want to point out is most people don't actually see what happens at the line of scrimmage. Now that right there, that's pretty obvious that they're not trying to tackle him. And I'm going to go over that section later on, but I'm going to cover the line of scrimmage play coming up. At the line of scrimmage, you have the Chiefs. The Chiefs are set up. Got 4 down linemen, and they had 3 linebackers. You have Derrick Thomas, Marcus Patton, and Donnie Edwards. Now, it's strange how these 3 linebackers are pretty much playing in the middle of the field. They are not spread out. Derrick is not where he would normally be. You have the safeties are playing way back, but in a typical 4 down lineman, you're going to have your outside linebackers playing, you know, closer to the defensive ends. And so then you'll have your strong safeties playing closer, you know, on either side of the middle linebacker. That would be your standard 4 down lineman formation. But the Chiefs are staging their linebackers in this formation in order for them to come up and take themselves out of position to stop the run. It's going to go straight up the middle. Now the offensive line is going to create a wall against the Chiefs' defensive tackles. They're going to create a wall and open up a hole, and you'll see Derrick Thomas will conveniently place himself on the left side of that wall that's created, and Donnie Edwards and Marcus Patton will go to the right side, deliberately taking themselves out of position and letting that running back run up the middle. Instead of them, when that ball is snapped, they immediately rushed that line, not staying back to see if that was going to be some kind of a play action pass, you know, to wait for Gannon to actually make the handoff, because they would have had time. If it's a handoff just like it wound up being, they would have had time to cover that hole, which they didn't have time to cover because they rushed the line too fast, putting themselves out of position, like I just said, on each side of that wall that's formed. And they allowed that running back to just shoot through. This is how you stage a long run from the line of scrimmage. This is exactly how you stage it. This is how it looks when it's broken down. You know, Derrick Thomas, Marcus Patton, and Donnie Edwards, all 3 of them approached that line way too fast, and they conveniently engaged themselves on the line without being blocked. Derrick Thomas literally engages himself with his own player as if he's being blocked. He's like, oh, I can't get to it. I can't get to the running back. That's a very common process. That's a method to where the person with the untrained eye won't realize that those guys took themselves out of that play. To the untrained eye, it looks like they were just confused and misread the play. But any good runner, any good linebacker will stay at home. They'll stay in their position and wait to see where that running back is going. That running back gets through that line, then they move forward, then they plug up the hole. They were trying to plug up the hole before it developed, and all three of those linebackers put themselves on the opposite side of the wall of the hole, being blocked by their own players. It's done on purpose, very common process. Now I'm going to cover the rest of that, the finishing up of that run, which is very, very obviously staged, and I'll get to that point coming right up. And as the Raiders running back makes his way closer to the end zone, you'll see the Chiefs cornerbacks, number 26, and then James Hasty, number 40, who should have ended that play right there. Hasty should have made this tackle, but Hasty does the classic overrun scam. I call it a scam. These football players know how to stop on a dime, plant their feet, get their balance, and make a contact hit. Hasty overruns the running back purposefully. Of course, this is all staged. He does a classic, oh, I'm going too fast to stop my momentum to get you. Oh, how unfortunate, and I can't grab you. So that's what happened there. It's a classic overrun. Now, the rest of this, you got Derrick Thomas slipping, letting the guy slip through his hands. I'll go through that step by step. Derrick Thomas and Donnie Edwards get together on this. There's Derrick making first contact, attempting to pull the guy to tackle, and then Donnie Edwards basically grabs him and pulls him forward. Derrick, deliberately slipping away from the guy, and Donnie Edwards basically pulls him across the goal line into the end zone under the guise of, oh, this is the best way I can tackle you. Not pushing him forward or, the other way, but pulling him the wrong direction, giving them the easy touchdown. And that's how they played that out. Now, that chain of events there, those two quick plays for that 68-yard drive and that final 26-yard run, really the fans, especially the fans in the stands, were bewildered. And when they saw what I just described, of course they saw it in real life action, when they saw the replay on the scoreboard, they had to be feeling weird about what they witnessed. But what you see something that's obviously fraudulent and then you accept it as well, that's just how it happened. That's when you put yourself in danger on a spiritual level and delving into their deception further. And, fourth quarter has both teams spending half the quarter exchanging punts. The Chiefs finally get a 40-yard touchdown pass with a little over 7 minutes left. And you would think the momentum has shifted, but it appears to have. Of course, I'm looking at retrospect, obviously. But the Chiefs, they go up, kick off to the Raiders. The Raiders do another quick and out, 3 and out. Chiefs get the ball right back with under 7 minutes left and can't do anything with it. Do a 3 and out. Kick the ball back, punt the ball back to the Raiders. Raiders do the same thing. Can't move the ball. Get the ball back to the Chiefs with about 3 minutes. Chiefs have the ball, I believe, on their 20-yard line. Can't do anything with it. I mean, it's with all that was at stake. There were 2 more critical possessions the Chiefs had with under 7 minutes, and they could not move the ball. Showing it right here. That's the last possession they had before the Raiders actually get the ball and score they tie the game with the field goal. But I'm going to go over a couple of obvious stage scenarios where the Raiders managed to drive the ball to get into field goal range. There was a stage play where the Chiefs the Chiefs cornerback, I think it was, last name is Harris, number 44. I'm showing it right here. This pass completion puts the ball in the field goal range, and the Chiefs number 44 falls on purpose right there. See that? That's what you do. You stumble as a trailing D-back when you see the ball is being thrown short. When you see the receiver slowing to catch the ball, you have to do something to compensate. So the easiest thing to do is to fall. So that's what number 44 did, and there's the Raiders scoring the tying field goal, 38-all. Now, the Chiefs drive the ball back after drive the ball back downfield after getting it with about 50 seconds left. Pete Stoyanovich, who was the best NFL kicker, 45 yards and beyond, misses, obviously. Then the Chiefs lose the toss to go into overtime. Missing that field goal sent the game into overtime. Chiefs lose the toss, so they're kicking off. Guess what happens? Baker kicks the ball. Baker kicks the ball out of bounds for the third time. Now, what are the odds of that happening? You got a professional kicker, specializes in kickoffs, biggest game of his career to date, and he kicks the ball out of bounds 3 times, costing his team field position, giving the Raiders 40 yards. Now, the Raiders, here's where it gets very, very relevant. Here we got a Raiders start on their 40-yard line. Here's the scenario where the 42-yard line factor comes back, where someone goes down.
Stepping up, throwing, finds Dudley for the first down into Kansas City territory and out of bounds right around the 42. 19 yards.
I believe it was absolutely critical that they got to the 42-yard line or thereabouts. This is the third event that I was speaking of earlier. That clock has been stopped at 14:10. They have to run another play to start that clock back up and to allow it to run down. And it will run down because Derrick Thomas is at the bottom of that pile somehow. He's down. And again, Derrick seems to be down for no reason, but he is actually down on the 39. Very relevant number, as it coincides with our number 42, which is where the ball is officially spotted, and which is where the trainers will gather on the 42, and Derrick being on the 39. Chris Dishman will be on the 42 as they circle Derrick for this ritual, which I believe is a ritual, symbolic. Something is being said to Derrick. This Chris Dishman will block the view. Dishman is on the 42. Derrick's on the 39. And this is symbolism for Derrick's ultimate exit. He will get up and jog off the field, apparently in fine condition. But I do believe that we witnessed the ritual to send Derrick off. Ultimately, he will exit 21 days later, but this is the precursor for the fans, a ceremonial send-off symbolically for Derrick Thomas. I feel like I need to recap here. I'm showing that first and 10 from the 42, how they did a quick stop, and again, I don't see what injured Derrick. I think that he is not injured, but they ran that play, in my opinion, solely to get that clock started so that they could get it to 13:42. This is why that play happened. Now, it's convenient to have Derrick down as the cause of the stoppage. Again, not to just keep repeating myself, but this is a ritual taking place. I just wanted to reiterate that is too much of a coincidence not to have been done purposefully. You know, Gruden looking Now, kneeling with Derrick kneeling on the 39 is almost like symbolically gesturing as to, you know, honor the 42 in which he will face later, and the Freemason being 42, and his number 13, translated from 58, being synonymous with the clock being stopped at number 42, is definitely done deliberately. Again, this is a ritual, and no timeout being called signifies that it was a ritual.
Get as much yardage as possible to create a scenario where Joe Delaney can win this game on the first possession of overtime. Jumping pretty and bringing them back with defense the entire season long. They've led this football team. They need to come up with a big play for Kansas City to win it, but the Oakland offense, with backup offensive linemen, have done an outstanding job of, one, running the football, and two, protecting quarterback Richfield. Derrick Thomas. He's been all over the field. Donnie Edwards is the man that is Derrick Thomas that is being looked at, number 58. Had to take a knee and is now able to run off on his own. Ron George will step in to replace him. 3 tackles today for Thomas, going sideline to sideline. Pressure on the quarterback.
And even if I am wrong about there being a timeout automatically charged in overtime, I know it happens in the fourth quarter, and I believe it applies to overtime. Let's say it doesn't. What's the strange thing about this whole deal is what I just covered. The commentators are looking at Derrick Thomas, and they're not mentioning that they mentioned he's down, but they didn't mention the clock's not running. That's unheard of. The commentators keep track of field position and the clock. Who's coming in the game, who's going out of the game. They especially keep track of the stoppage of the clock, especially in a critical game like this in overtime. But for them not to mention it is the giveaway that this was coordinated. Everybody on the field as far as participating in the game, and it was again coordinated, synchronized carefully as a ritual ceremonial farewell to number 58, Derrick Thomas. And I will continue on. Now, I wanted to recap something on the Gannon interception in the first quarter. They put the Chiefs got the ball on their own 32, and then they couldn't move, and they wound up punting, and that's when the punt was blocked. The Raiders blocked the punt, went in for 6 points, and the guy throws the ball at Derrick Thomas's poster. Okay, there was something that I missed as that 3-and-out series developed from the Chiefs. The first down play starts from the 32. The Chiefs hand the ball off to number 39, Bam Morris. Doesn't matter who the running backs are, but I'm going to let the commentator do his thing, and I'm going to show you the clip because I'm having some technical difficulties with this computer to load it up like I want, but I'm going to get it done, but just bear with me. The first down run, he gains 3 yards. He goes from the 32 to the 34. It's actually 2.5, but it's officially a 3-yard gain. And note what the commentator says. He's going to say, I'm paraphrasing, almost the entire Raider defense saw that he got no more than 3 yards. And then just keep your eye on the clock. The clock is going to count down to the 3:33 mark and the 3:09 mark. There's going to be some relevant events on those times I just said, 3:33 and 3:09. Okay. And then on the second down, 2nd and 7, Bam is going to, the Chiefs are going to have a hand. I don't know if it's Bam Morris or whoever it is. The running back is going to cross the line of scrimmage and clearly stretch out and go to the 35.5 line. He's going to hit the ground, and it's going to be on the 35.5 line. And the clock's going to say 3:39. I think earlier I said 3:09, but the clock is going to say 3:39 when he hits the ground. He's going to clearly gain a yard. It's the ball. He's going to stretch the ball out. His body, his upper torso is going to cross the 35-yard line. The ball will be on the 35.5, meaning that he will gain 1 yard. But as the clock counts down to 33, the commentator is going to say no gain. He's going to clearly basically lie. I hate to call a guy a liar, but he's going to give a blatant falsehood on the spot. He's going to say no gain. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this out is apparently the Chiefs were not supposed to get across the 35-yard line. They wanted the ball on the 35-yard line because on the 3rd and 7, Elvis Gerbeck does not complete the pass. And the Chiefs wind up punting from the 35-yard line. Now, what's relevant about that, Harold? What are you doing? Are you making such a big deal about a bad spot? Well, and the commentator missing the bad spot, missing the proper spot, isn't that possible? I say no, it's not possible in this case because of the timing of the numbers. The Chiefs running back hits the ground on the 35.5 line at the 3:39 mark, and then the commentator blatantly gives bad information and says no gain when he clearly pushes for a yard. He says no gain when the clock says 3:33. Chiefs wind up punting from the 35. It is now 4th down on the 35. This is the clincher here. 4th down from the 35. The Chiefs punt, get the punt blocked. Obviously they let them come through, but that doesn't matter. The punt is blocked after a 4th down on the 35. Get the touchdown. The guy who, I'm trying to think of the guy who gets the touchdown. Kenny Shedd takes the ball, throw it at Derrick Thomas's poster. Now, Derrick Thomas had his crash, SUV crash on January 23rd on 435 westbound, I-435. 435, 4th on the 35. That's why they had to make sure that ball was positioned on the 35. There's a touchdown scored after a block punt. The ball is thrown at Derrick Thomas. There's your symbolism. And as Gannon, after he throws his interception, he comes off the field, and they show his stats. And I went through this earlier. He was 3 of 9 for 23 yards. There's your 3 of 9. There's your 3-9 and 23 yards for the 23rd day of the year. 4th on the 35. Punts blocked for 6 points. The ball is thrown at Derrick Thomas's poster. Hopefully, I've made myself clear, and I'm going to let this play through so you can literally witness the shenanigans coming right up.
Interceptions in this of the season. Got a run on tackle. And just about everybody on that Oakland defense came over to make sure that he wasn't going to pick up more than 3. Clock is moving with just 4 minutes left here in the first. And you might recall Michigan scored 2 touchdowns in the last meeting for the Oakland Raiders, but he got burned last week for 2 touchdowns in that loss in Seattle. It's good to see him rebound, but I'll tell you what, he probably loves to see the silver and black so far. This is his first year with Kansas City Chiefs. It's the 2nd time facing the Oakland Raiders. On 2nd and 7, trying to push the pile forward. Van Morris, but is tackled by Greg Meeker, along with Lance Johnstone. No gain on the play. 17-0, our scoring is 12. And a three-receiver set for help this time back to work. On the 3rd and 7, Joe Moore checks into the game. Here's third back stepping up. As he throws. Grady Jackson was the man applying the pressure. Incomplete. And Kansas City will punt the football. Grady Jackson one-on-one with Davis out. Grady Jackson is alone. They have it 6-2, 3.
Now you saw it. You saw it play out just the way I described it. You saw the ball when they did the replay of quarterback going back to pass. You saw the ball on the 35. That's where they punted. Again, it had to be 4th on the 35 to represent I-435. Derrick Thomas's accident. Yeah, so there you have the 3 relevant 42-yard instances. Gannon falling down after making a 3rd and 11, and then Derrick going down after a 3rd and 11, and then of course Derrick blocks on the attempt block punt where he shouldn't have been in. He created a penalty on the 42-yard line. 42 being relevant for Derrick, and that will be revealed coming right up. I'm going to go ahead and go over this last drive after Derrick goes out with that weird injury with a timeout charge to no one. The Raiders do a quick job of finishing up. They do the very next play. They throw a 26-yard pass. He goes out on the Chiefs 16. I think they were actually trying for the 17. And then they come in and kick the winning field goal. Of course, it had to be 33 yards. They ran one more play before the actual field goal kick to get better position of the field. But the ball had to be either on the 16 or 17 in order for it to equate to a 33-yard field goal, which is very important. It's an esoteric ending to an esoteric game. 33 order out of chaos. They're one day after Derrick's 33rd birthday. Chiefs being up 17 points and not being able to close out the deal is a very important game to go to the playoffs. Wind up, of course, to keep repeating myself, being Derrick's last game of his life. Okay, I'm going to go over the stats of Derrick Thomas. Very interesting, his tackle stats. Going into that day's game, Derrick had accomplished 639 career tackles. 639 career tackles before this game. He had 3 tackles in this game, which wound up with his total for his career 642. Again, the 39 and 42 reoccurring. The Chiefs in 1999, this is Derrick's last team, the 99 Kansas City Chiefs. The offense scored 390 points. The defense allowed 322. There's your 3-9 again and 3-2-2, skull and bone. Very, very relevant numbers there. Now let's go to the clincher, the crash site at Derrick Thomas's SUV traveling westbound on I-435 on a snowy Sunday afternoon. The crash site occurred just shy of exit 42. That's why I kept harping on the number 42. Derrick being down on the 42. Okay. This is why I kept bringing up 42. And this crash site being at exit 42, this is why I kept saying it's on another level. We're going to consider this to be a real event, and this could not have happened on a human level. This is on another level for this man to have suffered this accident, and he lost his best friend. I won't say his name, but his best friend was killed on site, and a third individual who was wearing a seatbelt was not injured that much. Derrick and his friend were not wearing seatbelts. Okay, crash site, exit 42, I-435. Again, that's the whole relevance of that 4th on the 35, how they misplaced the ball and deliberately set it on the 35. I believe it had to be 4th and 35. I want to go over all that again, but you see what I'm saying about the 435 with the block punt and the poster being basically symbolically attacked with Derrick Thomas. The Washington Post confirms the time of Derrick's accident being at 1:30 p.m. That's 13:30 military time. There's your 13:30 occurring at exit 42. That was symbolic on the clock. Well, basically, yeah, the clock back in the first quarter. 13:30 on the 23-yard line. The 13:30 on the 23rd day of January at exit 42. On that same day, there was a tragic accident that was a little bit northwest of Derrick's accident on I-29. There was a 42 injured in a 19-car pileup. 42 were injured, 9 killed, 42 injured. I'm not saying that's relevant to Derrick's accident, but it's just rather bizarre for that to have happened on the same day with the 42 being injured, 10 killed. I'm gonna go over Derrick's. I looked up his birth numbers, and turns out his unfriendly numbers wound up being 268. That totals up to 16. You add 16 to 23. The 23rd of January, add 16 days, you'll get his death date, which would be February 8th. February 8th is 16 days from January 23rd. So there's his unfriendly numbers. And it kind of ties in to the 17. The 17, I kept pointing out how relevant that was. I already covered that. But it ties into Derrick's reason for being on the highway that day. He was traveling. He was going to catch a plane to go to St. Louis and watch the NFC Championship game that day. And the Bucks played the Rams. And the Bucks lost to the Rams 6-11. You see the esoteric meaning of 17 as it's translated in Greek. No, I'm sorry, in Latin. It's VIXI. That's 6-11. Number 17, Derrick was on his way to see a game that wound up being 6-11. Of course, 6-11. 6-11 meaning my life is over. Very ironic, or not. The total days, and I like to do this for myself. You can get an app and calculate your days, the number of days you have lived in your life. Derrick Thomas wound up living 12,091 days. That was on his final day, the 39th day of the year. February 8th being that 39th day of the year. That's the relevance of 39. That wound up being 12,091, but his last full day would have been February 7th. It would have been his last full day. He died at 10:10 a.m. on the 8th. So his last full day on Earth would have been February 7th, which would have gave it, his numbers would have been 12,090. Again, there's your 12-9. There's 3-9, I should say. That 12, that 1-2 converts to 3. There's your 3-9 again. Just going over these numbers to point out how life is synchronized. This is why the Bible encourages us to count, teaches us to number our days, to apply wisdom to our hearts. It is wise to count. The system of Babylon basically, in my opinion, operates through us as puppet masters, especially through sports entertainment. As we cheer on our favorite players, our favorite teams, we get so wrapped up, and basically it's idolatry. It's not all sports entertainment, it's movies, music. It's idolatry, and this is what U.S.A. Inc., the citizens of U.S.A. Inc. will be judged. When that great and terrible day of the Lord comes, we stand before His judgment. Those who are not of the wheat and the tares. They will be judged. I think the big sin will be idolatry. But again, not to keep harping on, how bad we are. This is not the purpose of the video. The purpose of this video is to get individuals to see, as you indulge in entertainment, you have to know what you're looking at. You have to be able to protect yourself. The trappings that exist in all forms of entertainment, especially football. And again, I'm going to wrap this up. Derrick Thomas was my all-time favorite Kansas City Chief as a former Chiefs fan, diehard Chiefs fan. And looking back, retrospect, I think my passion of the game really ended that year with Derrick's death. When it was announced, really lost the vigor that I used to have. And of course now it's just, I don't take it seriously at all. I take it serious in the fact that the events on the field being scripted, arranged. I believe it does have real life effect. Whether the real life effect be arranged, scripted or not, it has real life effect on us based on what is going on the field of play, court of play, big screen, media announcements, news announcements, whatever. We have to be vigilant, wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. So I'm gonna move on, finish up the part about Washington Redskins versus in the Black Lives Matter situation. I'm going to go into that and give what I believe the real esoteric meaning behind Redskins and Black Lives Matter. Coming right up.
I recently heard an individual speaking to someone and asking for directions in a convenience store. And the person who answered the person's question about directions gave them the wrong direction. They told them to go west and they should have gone east on a certain highway that they were asking about. Sent them in the opposite direction. I could not reach the person who was told the wrong direction, who was given the wrong information. Couldn't reach them. And it bothered me that I could not get to them in time. Can't remember what stopped me. There's some kind of distraction. People got in the way as they were leaving the door. But that person went out, got in their car, and followed, I assume, those wrong directions. And I found it odd that they did not have a GPS system on their smartphone. Maybe they didn't have a smartphone. Maybe they didn't have a Garmin or whatever. But they were just doing the old-fashioned, hey, how do you get to a certain place? And the person was given blatant wrong direction. And I wonder how far they drove before they realized that they were not going the right way. This is what this feels like when this reminds me of when I look at this Black Lives Matter protest and the whole movement. And I look at the old Washington Redskins where the Native Americans are raising a big stink about being offended by being called Redskin. In the African American movement with Black Lives Matter are pushing this we must matter because we are being snuffed out left and right by the evil white police. As the media narrative would have it, the system that runs all this, the puppet masters, are elated that these arguments continue. Whether these protests are paid, bust-in puppets, game stalking, hired by the system, whether they be under those circumstances or whether it be a real grassroots, passionate movement, these individuals are going in the wrong direction. And again, the system is elated. Washington Redskins were founded in 1933. It's no coincidence that it happened the same year that the United States citizens were declared collateral stock for an insolvent government treasury. U.S.A. Inc. is bankrupt. and has gone further into bankruptcy as the years have passed. I don't know what the national debt is. I haven't looked at it lately, but I will post it. I'll take a look at it when I'm through talking here. But there's a financial term called being in the red. In the red means to be in debt, running a deficit, or generally just not making money, being cash negative. The United States citizens, even if you have millions of dollars in cash, you are cash negative because there is no gold. I shouldn't say cash negative, you are value negative. There's no worth in the cash that we hold because there is no gold. The United States has no gold. I'm not going to go through that whole deal again, but this is what the term means. The Washington Redskins, the football team was invented, created, along with the NFL as a distraction, giving their players numbers on their jerseys, run around on a field of play as if they're chess pieces. I personally believe that the outcomes of these games are all scripted, as I just covered in the Derrick Thomas deal. And these scripted outcomes have esoteric meaning for individuals on the high table, and it determines outcomes of our so-called reality. But not to go too far back into that, we are all, in other words, we are all Washington Redskins. Our debt was created from Washington, through Washington, and all its citizens are Redskins. Skins is a term meaning is synonymous with our souls, our person. That's a way of saying who we are, our bodies, our souls. Our skin is red, red being in debt. It's all about financial terms. Now, as far as a black life that matters, Black Lives Matter, I should say, the only life that matters in their real world, what's real to them, is whether or not you're in debt. The only life that matters is a black life. Black being refers to being financially solvent or profitable, or sometimes more generally just not in debt. You have a birth certificate and social security number, you are in debt. You are in debt. 5-year-old children going to kindergarten are already in debt before they even get their first jobs. Babies are born in debt. It is the way of the world. So this whole big stink about Black Lives Matters, African Americans in U.S.A. Inc., you're being led down the wrong road. You've been told to go west and you should be going east, as my metaphor goes, as I'm trying to connect it here so it will be understood. Black Lives Matter only is referring to a financial status. So in other words, you can never be black. African Americans, you will never be black. You will never be out of debt, because all the United States Inc. citizens, we are stock, we are collateral. And I believe even with whatever the population is in the United States, it cannot cover $30 trillion. I don't believe it will cover it. People need to keep an eye on the debt clock. I do believe 33 trillion somewhere in the time period after our debt surpasses 33 trillion, there will be a major change for our financial situation. And the so-called citizens, who are all Redskins. We are all Redskins. And yes, Black Lives Matter, Redskins do not. Financially speaking, this is the message that they are actually telling us in plain sight, and yet we miss it because we've been steered to the wrong direction. We've made it a political situation and it's not political. It's financial. And the financial situation dealing with United States Inc. debt is reality.